Hey everyone, so as we all know, Netflix produces a lot of the great original content, and one of my favorites from last year was a series called Atypical, and returns this year with season 2, and this season ended up being even much better than the last season. I love this series so much. It definitely surprised me, and let's go ahead and talk about it. So to recap Atypical, it's essentially about this kid named Sam who's in high school and he has autism. And essentially the series follows him and his kind of his daily struggle. I hate to call it a struggle because it's really not. It's just his interaction with the world. And I think this is such a great series. It also focuses on his family and their struggles with sort of balancing having a normal life, I guess, and dealing with a child that has autism. I love this series so much, and I feel like season 2 really perfected the delicate balance of being funny, but also kind of being heartbreaking a lot of the times. And it was just such a phenomenal season. This one had me laughing so much more than the first season. It had me so engaged, and I loved it so much more than the first season. Although I really liked it, this one definitely perfected their craft, and it just makes me even more excited for more and more of this series. Now, in terms of the acting for Atypical, season 1, I think everybody did a great job. I don't think that there was anybody that necessarily did anything bad or horrible. And in season 2, I feel like they put a lot more love into their characters. I feel like you could actually see how much each actor cared about their character, not only in terms of how they progress and how they develop and grow, but just in terms of their interactions with each other. I actually truly genuinely felt a lot of the time that this was an actual family and actually having problems for the most part. There was never a dull moment where I felt like, okay, these people don't really care about not only the subject matter, but trying to even make it seem like they're a real family. I actually felt like these were some pretty realistic performances, and a lot of them, although are heartbreaking, they feel real, and I feel like they actually felt genuine enough that that's what kind of kept me engaged and coming back to the show because I loved it so much. And I feel like that kind of goes and bleeds into the story itself. The story itself, I actually felt like the characters develop. Yes, they're going through problems, but I felt like that they actually care about the characters, they care about the story, and it just evolves in such an organic way that it just sucked me in. Every single episode sucked me in. They're only like 30-minute episodes, only like 10 episodes or something like that. But I felt myself loving each and every single episode. Even if something bad or heartbreaking kind of happened, it was just so engaging, and I just cared so much for each person, especially Sam. Sam is like hands down the greatest. I love him. And what I like so much about season 2 is you actually get to see Sam develop. And Sam really progresses a lot, especially from where he was in season 1. And to be honest, there were even times where I found myself being proud of Sam and even his little accomplishments, whether it be speaking with someone about something, getting out of his comfort zone, going to some place. He actually did a lot of great things towards his development and being able to interact. He's definitely one of the more higher functioning, I think, autistic on the autism scale, or autistic spectrum, excuse me. He's definitely, I think, one of the more high-functioning ones because I'm not particularly well-trained in that particular field. I'm not trying to say that I am. But I feel like he's definitely one of the more high-functioning ones, someone who can have those world interactions, but he still does have those daily struggles where things get to him sometimes. And you see that throughout the series, especially in season 2. But he progresses so much from where he was in season 1. And I think he shows that to everyone around him, and they kind of get comfortable with, yeah, he can actually do these things and function in society and be able to have a normal life, or at least as close to normal with his condition as he possibly can, and being able to go to these autism groups instead of necessarily like one-on-one therapy. All these great things that he's able to accomplish in this season are just extraordinary. And actually, speaking of him going to autism groups, this season did something that I think was one of the coolest things I've ever seen a series or whatever you want to call it do. And they actually used autistic actors in the roles of his group. So he has a group of probably about, 6, 7 people, including himself, that actually all have autism. And I think that was one of the coolest things, that they got actual autistic actors to come in and actually have interaction with Sam and be able to spread awareness about the actual condition. And not only that, but you get to see them in various aspects throughout the season as well, not just in that therapy group, which I think is really important. You get to actually see them be out in the world. Sometimes Sam will come across one of them and have to like interact with them or whatever the case may be. And I think that's just one of the coolest things. I don't know why. I just thought it was so clever of them and be able to actually care enough to use people with that specific condition that the show is centered around, bring awareness to it, but also show these people have lives. They are trying to, have everyday interactions, and they're out there working. They want to work, and they can work. It's just a matter of giving them that opportunity. And I think this is a great platform to be able to show that, and I think that was one of my favorite things about the entire season 2. Now, I love season 2 very, very much, but there's one tiny, tiny little nitpick that I have about it that's going to seem really dumb, but it's something that I really didn't like. And that is when characters are texting each other. Now, this is going to sound really weird, but there's, especially with the sister Casey, when she's texting her boyfriend or her friend or mom, whatever the case may be. When she's texting them, they kind of give you like that over-the-shoulder showing you the phone text conversation thing. And it's really small. I mean, I have like a 50-something inch TV, and I watched every single episode on there, and I really didn't like it when I couldn't even read what the text message said, because some of what their interaction later would be about, or their conversation leading up to whatever that interaction could have been, kind of depends on that text conversation. And if you don't even have the ability to read it, that's just something that was super small that nitpicked me, that I just really didn't like it. Everything else about the season I absolutely loved. Every up, every down, I loved it every single second. But when somebody texts each other, it was just not something that I liked whatsoever. Just the biggest nitpick I think I've ever had on a show, maybe. Maybe not the biggest one, but it's just something that really drove me insane whenever that would happen. Didn't happen often, but when it did, really got to me. But I can't recommend Atypical Season 2 enough. I can't recommend the series enough. I think it's one of the best shows on network TV or streaming TV services that's been around for a while. Has a great subject matter, bringing awareness to autism, people on the spectrum itself, and how vast and wide it can be. Not only that, but it's actually a great family comedy. It's a great family drama. This series pretty much has everything without like going into like an action or like a horror genre. It literally has everything. And I feel like the awareness it brings, just like that camaraderie between the cast and being able to see that love that's actually put into the show, I think that's something that's one of the best things about the show itself, is there's actual love in it, whether it be between the characters. You can see it in the writing, you can see it in the directing, you can see it in every single episode. And I think that's one of the greatest things about Atypical Season 2, and I can't recommend it enough. And for that reason, the grade that I'm going to give Atypical Season 2 is an A+. This show is phenomenal. I can't recommend it enough. I love it so much. I love the characters so much. I really can't wait for Season 3. I really hope they continue the trend of using those autistic actors in Season 3, maybe them having a bigger role. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I really look forward to it. Hopefully, don't have to wait that year limit that Netflix usually has between seasons. Most likely we will, but I definitely can't wait to see Atypical Season 3 when it comes out. But the good thing is Season 1 and Season 2 are still available on Netflix now. You can go check them out on whatever device you may be able to stream on. Highly recommend checking it out. Like I said, they're only like 30-minute episodes. I think it's like 10 episodes a season, something like that. You can blow through it pretty quick because it is such a great show, and I highly recommend it. But enough about that. That's all I have about Atypical Season 2. Other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I hope to see you in the next one.